Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the mechanics behind one of the absolute most remarkable success stories in modern history. We are going to decode how exactly Oprah Winfrey transitioned from being on-screen television talent to the owner of a trusted, globally recognized media ecosystem. For anyone out there interested in business, entrepreneurship, or building a brand from the ground up, her journey is quite literally a masterclass. So let's get right into it.
Let's start things off by asking our core question. How does someone actually move from being hired talent on TV to becoming a true business owner whose personal reputation transforms into a massive, multifaceted brand? Think about it. It's one thing to be famous, right? But it's an entirely different ballgame to build sustainable, scalable businesses around an audience that genuinely trusts you. Today, we're breaking down the exact strategy behind that incredible evolution.
To really understand this empire, we've got to go back to the foundation. We can trace her early chronological evolution, starting with a deep interest in radio and television, which eventually led to some broadcasting work over in Baltimore. But the real spark? That was her strategic relocation to Chicago to host a morning show called AM Chicago. These early phases were absolutely critical, because they were her training ground. This is where she put in the reps, learned the industry inside and out, and most importantly, learned how to truly communicate right through a camera lens.
But here's the crucial takeaway. Talent? Sure, talent can open a door. Raw talent got her in the room and put her in front of the camera, but it was her unique, empathetic communication style that actually secured her future. She didn't just broadcast at people. She connected with them. She understood her audience on a fundamental human level. So what you should take away from this is that talent is really just the starting line. True longevity in any career comes from deeply understanding and serving the people on the receiving end of what you do.
Which brings us to our first major shift, the Oprah Winfrey Show, moving from identity to brand.
You see, AM Chicago didn't stay a local hit for very long. As the show evolved into a nationally syndicated juggernaut, officially becoming the Oprah Winfrey Show, her reach just multiplied exponentially. Syndication meant her show was suddenly being sold to stations all across the country. But a real advantage wasn't simply being everywhere on television. It was the fact that this massive, growing audience implicitly trusted her voice. That deep viewer connection is exactly what transformed her public identity into a highly recognizable, incredibly potent brand.
And that perfectly sets up the next phase, the Harpo paradigm shift.
There is just such a stark contrast between being hired talent and being an entrepreneurial owner. The traditional route means you're paid for a service, right? You get a great salary, sure, but you have very limited control. The Harpo model, creating and owning the production company, means you control the valuable content and you get to dictate the economics. This shift in structure forever changed her economic and strategic power. She was no longer just an employee of a network, she was the boss. By stepping into ownership, she was taking on way more than just hosting a daily program. Suddenly, she's producing her own content, she's sitting at the head of the table negotiating her own business deals, she's making the ultimate creative decisions, and she is building a dedicated team from the ground up. This is a massive lesson for anyone looking to scale. To capture the real value of your work, at some point, you've got to take on the risk and the responsibility of ownership.
It really all boils down to this brilliant concept. Instead of simply being the product, Oprah was building the business around the brand. This totally redefined her entire approach to media. She recognized that her name and her connection with the audience were way bigger than any single daytime television time slot. She wasn't just a product being sold to advertisers anymore. She was the architect of the entire surrounding business.
Now, let's move into our next concept, trust as a core asset. Because honestly, all that ownership and syndication stuff we just talked about, it'd mean absolutely nothing without this one crucial element. So how did she build that trust? Well, day in and day out, she tackled personal development, relationships, health, she navigated difficult life challenges, and shared incredibly personal stories. Audiences connected with these authentic conversations because she wasn't talking down to her viewers. She was navigating life right alongside them. And that shared vulnerability, it's incredibly powerful.
In this ecosystem, trust wasn't just some warm, fuzzy feeling. It was a hard, foundational business asset. And here is why this matters for you. This kind of deep trust cannot be manufactured simply through clever advertising or throwing a ton of money at a marketing campaign. It has to be painstakingly earned over time, day by day, interaction by interaction.
Which takes us to the next massive leap, expanding the media ecosystem. With that massive foundation of trust locked in,
and the ownership structure of Harpo completely established, the brand was ready to expand way beyond traditional daytime TV. With Harpo Productions acting as the core, she branched out into things like Oprah's Book Club, the Oprah Magazine, Oprah.com, and all sorts of film and TV ventures. What this shows us is how one incredibly loyal audience can actually support multiple diverse revenue streams. But the secret sauce here is that every single one of these products remained completely aligned with her core brand identity. If you trusted her show for book recommendations, you'd trust her book club. If you trusted her life advice on TV, you'd for sure subscribe to her magazine. It's just a brilliant web of interconnected value.
The ultimate business lesson here is actually pretty profound. Oprah didn't simply build a bigger television show. She built an ecosystem around a relationship with her audience. She monetized a genuine, authentic relationship by providing value across multiple different mediums, always keeping the audience's needs and their trust at the absolute center of her strategy.
So if we boil down that entire strategy, there's a really clear 6-step progression here. This is the exact blueprint she used. Step 1, build an audience. Step 2, earn their trust through absolute authenticity. Step 3, turn that recognized identity into a brand. Step 4, create and own your own content. Step 5, expand into aligned products. And finally, Step 6, evolve those products into standalone businesses. Now, this blueprint might sound straightforward in theory, but actually executing it, that requires incredible discipline, emotional intelligence, and serious business acumen.
But, the story doesn't end there. After completely mastering daytime television and building this incredible ecosystem, she set her sights on something even bigger, turning her personal brand into an entire television network, OWN. And this would prove to be her biggest business test yet, full of totally unprecedented challenges and setbacks. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I've got to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Could the woman who dominated daytime television successfully build an entire network around her specific vision? We'll leave that question hanging for you to ponder. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into a truly masterful business journey.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're bringing you a brand new explainer. And let me tell you, this one is a truly cinematic breakdown of one of the most fascinating business journeys of our modern era. We're talking about Oprah Winfrey. Now, for years, she absolutely dominated daytime television. She was capturing the attention of millions every single afternoon. But, at a certain point, she saw the ceiling. She realized the extreme limits of simply being the highest paid employee in the room. So she made this monumental transition from an incredible television talent into a billionaire network owner. Today, we're going to decode the strategy, the leadership, and the immense power of personal branding that built an absolute empire. Get ready, because the lessons here are just incredible. So I really want you to think about this high-stakes question for a second. We all know the name, right? We all know the face. But what actually happens behind the scenes when a singular personal brand tries to scale into a massive, standalone corporate entity? Well, it's a monumentally difficult move. I mean, it's one thing to have a hit show where you pour all of your creative energy and focus into one highly polished hour of television a day. It is an entirely different universe to try and program an entire television network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The sheer volume of content required to keep a network alive is just staggering. You're basically feeding a beast that never sleeps. The level of difficulty here is astronomical, and the transition, it's rarely smooth.
Okay, let's dive into this. Chapter 1. From talent to network owner. To really understand how she built this empire, we have to establish the foundation of her early broadcast success. And honestly, the ascent was remarkably fast. Throughout the early 1980s, she made her major broadcasting breakthroughs, and by 1986, The Oprah Winfrey Show went national into syndication. It was an instant, massive hit. But here is the pivotal moment, the true genius structural move that literally changed television history. It happened in 1988 when she founded Harpo Productions. She didn't just walk into the executive office and ask for a record-breaking salary raise. No, she negotiated to actually own her show. She secured her own physical studio, retained her syndication rights, and most importantly, she owned her master tapes. That single structural shift laid the absolute groundwork for her ultimate pivot. It transformed her from a millionaire employee into a billionaire mogul, which gave her the immense control and capital needed decades later to partner with Discovery in 2011 and launch OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. Moving right along to Section 2, the launch reality check. Stepping out from the safety of daytime syndication into a dedicated network was a lot like staring into an unexpected abyss. And this is the reality check that catches so many ambitious founders completely off guard. A personal TV presence is highly controlled. It's one perfectly crafted show per day, entirely built around the unique energy of the host. But a dedicated television network, that's continuous programming. It's a voracious machine with massive daily audience expectations. When OWN initially launched,
it actually suffered from surprisingly low ratings and really struggled to find its voice. The audience tuned in expecting to see Oprah, but obviously she couldn't physically be on screen 24 hours a day. Translating a single person's vibe into a full-time, multifaceted network without them constantly in the frame proved incredibly difficult. It's a vital business lesson for us. Having a famous founder doesn't automatically guarantee that a new business is going to succeed. The original launch strategy simply wasn't working as expected. But as we know, true entrepreneurs survive by adapting, and Oprah's team had to aggressively course correct to find stronger programming. As the saying goes, successful businesses don't avoid mistakes, they learn how to respond to them. If you're building a business right now, or maybe mapping out a new career path, remember this: your initial launch strategy is probably going to face major setbacks. Oprah certainly did, but the difference between a failed launch and a thriving, lasting empire is the speed at which you course correct. They survived that brutal initial phase by confronting the market reality head-on and figuring out exactly what the network actually needed to be. Which brings us to Section 3, the power of personal branding. So how exactly did she manage to buy the time needed to course correct? Well, that was her secret weapon. You see, people often confuse celebrity with a brand. A celebrity simply attracts attention, and attention is fleeting, right? It spikes and crashes with the daily news cycle. A strong brand, however, creates long-term, monetizable customer relationships built entirely on trust. Now, what's really interesting about this distinction is that Oprah wasn't just famous. She was deeply trusted by millions of viewers. And that trust isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a concrete business asset. It acts as a protective shield when a business is trying to find its footing. Because of that immense trust, investors, partners, and advertisers gave her venture a much longer runway to fix its early mistakes. They believed in her core identity enough to weather the storm. If we break down that brand into its core ingredients, we can see exactly what transformed her name into that valuable protective asset. Think of it like a recipe. First, it requires consistency, showing up every single day for decades and delivering on your promise. Second, it requires authenticity. Her audience never felt like she was acting or putting on some corporate persona. They felt her genuine presence. It also demands a deep emotional connection, which is driven by masterful storytelling that turned every episode, every interview into a compelling narrative journey. And wrapped around all of this, reputation. Reputation is never built overnight. It's a slow, methodical, long-term investment that pays absolute dividends when you need to take a massive business risk. All right, let's look at Section 4, the Media Empire Blueprint. Once you've established that profound level of brand trust, the next step as an entrepreneur is leveraging it into strategic expansion. You don't just stay in one lane. Harpo expanded into an entire diversification ecosystem. We saw books through Oprah's Book Club, publishing with the Oprah magazine, feature film productions, and expansive digital media platforms. This created an incredible flywheel effect. The magazine articles fed ideas into the TV show sold the books, and the books helped fund the film productions. But the secret to making all of this work, this kind of strategic expansion only succeeds when every new venture strictly reinforces your central competitive advantage. Every single book she recommended and every magazine issue published directly reinforced her core brand of personal growth, empowerment, and storytelling. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that one trusted audience creates incredible opportunities across multiple platforms. But ask yourself, does trust on a television screen automatically translate to trust on a bookshelf or in a movie theater? Well, yes, but only if the execution is flawless. While this whole ecosystem concept is incredibly powerful, it's not magic. Every new platform still requires rigorous execution, massive capital investment, and expert management. You can't just slap your name on something and expect a win. You still have to deeply understand the specific market dynamics of the publishing industry, or feature film distribution, or digital media architecture to actually succeed. And finally, Section 5, 8 Essential Business Lessons. We've decoded the timeline, the intense early struggles, and the overarching strategy. Now let's distill Oprah's entire journey into 8 definitive rules. This is basically a highly condensed masterclass in entrepreneurial strategy. If you've got a notebook, grab it right now because this is where the theory turns into your practical playbook. Here we go. Number 1, build trust before you even try to monetize an audience. Trust is the actual currency. The money just follows it. Number 2, ownership is strictly greater than salary. Earning a lot pays the bills, for sure, but owning the asset is how you build the empire. Number 3, know your audience deeply. Understand their fears, their hopes, and their daily lives. Number 4, build a recognizable, fiercely authentic brand.
Number 5, diversify, but only ever around your proven strengths. Don't go chasing trends you don't understand. Number 6, choose strategic partners carefully, just like her crucial partnership with Discovery to build OWN. Number 7, be willing to change and adapt when something isn't working. Never let your ego sink the ship. And number 8, protect your reputation at all costs, because it is definitively your most valuable long-term business asset. When you look at her entire career trajectory, it really highlights the ultimate philosophical shift in business. An employee inside an industry, no matter how high their salary is fundamentally trading the sands of time for a paycheck. But an entrepreneur, they are fundamentally different. An entrepreneur plants a tree that eventually bears fruit whether they're standing there or not. They own part of the value being created. Oprah used her massive influence not just to get better broadcasting contracts, but to step off the treadmill entirely and create tangible, owned value that could outlast her daily presence. Turn attention into trust, trust into a brand, and a brand into ownership. Oprah Winfrey's greatest business achievement wasn't simply becoming a famous television host. It was executing this exact formula. You turn attention into trust. You turn that trust into a brand, and you turn that brand into true ownership. That is exactly how wealth, legacy, and lasting influence are built. I want to leave you with this final thought today. The biggest lesson from Oprah's incredible journey is surprisingly simple. Your audience may be your greatest asset, but only if you have put in the continuous work to actually earn their trust. Have you earned theirs? Think about how you are building your own brand right now and how you are actively converting daily attention into long-term trust. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you subscribe for more explainers diving into business success stories, company breakdowns, and real wealth building strategies. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you in the next one.